Okay, so tonight we're going to look at the revision of the grade 9 factors. Okay, last time we did a little bit of the products and a bit with fractions in and so on because they're not done so proper in school. But tonight we're going to look at the factors, but it is revision. Okay, so if you look at, if you look at factors, I think it is good that you make a summary. Now, the summary we can make, some people do, I like that, you do like two terms, 3 terms, 4 terms. In other words, you use the number of terms that you have, like 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms. Then you look, what can I group under 2 terms, what can I group under 3 terms, what can I group under 4 terms, and so on. That is a very good way of summarizing your factors. But the other way that people do it is, of course, we always start with a common factor, and then we can have difference of squares, we can have difference of cubes and sum of cubes, we can have the trinomial, tri meaning 3, so a 3-term, trinomial, 3-term in Afrikaans. And then we can have 4 terms, which is the grouping normally. 4 and 5 terms are grouping. Okay, groepering. Alright, so is die grootste gemene factor, verskil van kwadrate, som en verskil van derde magte, 3 term en jou 4 en 5 terme wat eintlik maar groepering is, grouping. Okay, so the common factor is not really a problem. It is what we all know what common means. It belongs to everybody. So if we look at this polynomial here, it's just a polynomial, normal polynomial, and then we look, what can we take out in each term? There are 3 terms here, so what can I, and also look at your sign, but only take out a sign if it's like the negative, for instance, if it's in all the terms. Otherwise, we take out positive. Okay, so here we will take out a positive. Now, only look at your numbers. It's like 8, 10, and 8, 4, and 10. So, what is the highest number that can go into 8, 4, and 10? That will be 2. And then we look at the letters. So, there's 4 factors of x, 3 factors of x, 2 factors of x. They all have 2 factors of x. Now, that comes in front of the bracket. Now, in the bracket, if you have 3 terms here, you must have 3 terms there. Now, you can either, it's interesting, I had somebody here yesterday, and I said, I prefer that, and I showed the 2 ways, and this guy just said to me, sir, I prefer the other way. And that's what I love about maths, you know. So, you can decide what you like. So, the way we get the insight, remember we're doing a very basic one here, but the rule stays the same. So we always start at a very basic one, and then of course we go more complicated. So you must understand the basic rule in order to handle the complicated ones. Okay, so if you take this first term and you divide it by your factor, your common factor, you will get the insight. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, x4 divided by x2 is x2. And then you move on like that. So negative 4 divided by 2 will be minus 2, x3 over x2 will be x. And 10 divided by 2 will be 5, and the x2 divided by the x2 is actually 1, but 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, so that's the one way of doing it. You do it by division. Okay, I don't do it by division, I do it by multiplying back. So in other words, I know I must get 8, so 2 times 4, I just do multiplication. So 2 times 4 will give me 8, and x2 times x2 will give me x4. In other words, I just use the multiplication way. And then I go to the next one, 2 times negative 2 will give me negative 4, and x2 times x to get to x3, and then 2 and plus 5 to get to plus 10, and then there's x2, there's no x there, so it will remain x2. Okay, And then please remember to always check this last factor, the big factor here, the brackets here. Just make 100% sure nothing can come out there, because if there can still come, if there's still a possibility for a number that can divide into 4, 2, and 5, then it means you did not take out the highest common factor, and then you just need to do another round, sort of. Okay, so that is the common factors. I think you did that well in your normal grade 9, so it should not be a problem. Then from that, we can have common brackets, like in this number D, for instance here. Remember, all these work are in your book in classroom, okay? Workbook 1, term 1 or something. Okay, so again we have two terms here. Remember, terms are separated by plus or minuses. So there's the minus. Okay, so that means we have one term, separation, another term. So that's the two terms. So what is common between the 9 and the 12? That will be 3, you see. What is common between the x2 and the x? That will be x, you see. Okay, but most people will just take out the brackets first. So be careful. If you take out the brackets first, you're gonna sit with 9x squared minus 12x, and then you will have to remember to check that it can go even further, and you can then take out the 3x. So be very careful. Okay, so basically it's better to take out the 3 and the x and the bracket, because that bracket belongs to term 1 and that bracket belongs to term 2. I will do examples in Jamboard a little bit later. I'm just covering all the work, and then we will do a few examples. Okay, so then you're welcome to ask your questions also. Okay, so 3x and a bracket. So if I take out the 3 and an x out and a bracket, what will remain? You see, 3x will remain to get to 9x squared, you see. And then if the bracket is out and the 3 and the x is out, what will remain? Just the negative 4, because 3 and negative 4 will give me my negative 12. Okay, so the point is, make sure you go to simplest form, okay? This will normally be done in more than one step. Alright. Okay, then here we have those groupings, you see, 4 terms. Now when you look at a 4 term, you always know it's grouping. It's grouping. You mustn't even wonder about that. It is grouping. Now how do you group? Try the ratios. Always try the ratios. You see, 3 over 2 will be 3 over 2. And 12 over 8 will also give you 3 over 2. Because if you divide by 4 there, you will get 3. And if you divide by 4 there, you'll get 2. So it shows you that the ratio is going to be 3 to 2. Okay, then you know you can group the first two together and the last two together. It's not always like that. That's why I say look at the ratio. Okay, sometimes you will have to group 1 and 3 together and 2 and 4 together or something like that. But the ratio will show you what you must group together. Okay, so first we group. Then we take out the common factor in the bracket, it's only x. And we take out the common factor in the second bracket, which is 4. And then, if you did it correctly, the brackets will be identical. It will be absolutely identical. Then that bracket can come out. Now that whole term, divide by that bracket will only give you the x. And the whole term, divide by that bracket will only give you the 4 there. So then, that is then in simplest form. Okay. So yeah, be very careful. If you look here at B, look here. There's a 1 and a 1, so it's 1 to 1. There's a 2 and a 2, that's also going to be 1 to 1. In simplest form, 2 to 2 in simplest form is 1 to 1. So now you know again, you can group the first two together and the last two together. Just be careful, you've got to take out a negative here, which will change this sign here to be a positive, so that the negative times the positive can go back to the negative there. Okay, and then you do again, as I said, what can you now take out of the first bracket? X. What can you take out of the second bracket? A 2. If you look there, we can take out X there. Comes in front of the brackets. Okay. We can take out a 2 there. Comes in front of the brackets. Those two brackets must now be identical, or you did something wrong. So take out the common bracket now. X remains, negative 2 remains. So inside the second pair of brackets, it's what is remaining. Okay. Again, you can see here, 1 to 3 and 2 to 6, so it will be again 1 to 3. So again, we can group the first two and we can group the second two. Okay, so here's like a little summary of the groupings that you can go over. All right. Let us just look at, I'm going to put this for us into Jamboard, and then we do out of this exercise just an example or two, just to see that you people are fine here. Okay, so I'm going to just put this now in Jamboard. Okay, so we need to factorize the following one. So let us look at number 4 then. Okay, remember now, there's already part of it is done now, because I mean there's nothing that can come out of the first bracket. I mean that's in simplest form, and the second bracket is also in simplest form. But remember, if they say factorize, then it means that we must have only multiplication signs between the brackets. Now we can't have a minus there, then it means it's not factorized, it's terms. Remember, if it's terms, it's not factorized. Now, okay, so we realize that we need to take out this bracket here. We can see there's a x and a y and an x and a y, but the problem is here x is in the first position and here x is not. So to get that right, we're going to take out a negative. Now you must understand this. This is very important. I think it should also be explained in normal school to you already last year. But I want to just show you something that people get confused with. So 3 plus 5 is the same as 5 plus 3. Okay, so 3 plus 5 is the same as 5 plus 3. So you can swap around when you have adding, because you get 8 and you get 8. No problem. It's the problem gets to if we have 3 minus 5 and we have 5 minus 3. Then this gives us negative 2 and this gives us 2. And that is why we need to take a negative out if we swap numbers that has a negative between them, to get the left hand side the same as the right hand side. So that is very, very important. So if I look now at number 4, okay, then I'm going to keep my x in first position because that's always better. But now I want to swap the second one. Then I need to take out a negative, and together with the negative that's already there, it's going to change now to a positive. Okay, and then that will swap. Just like we swapped the 3 and the 5 with the 5 and the 3 there by taking out a negative. Okay, now we have a common bracket. Remember, you do not have a common bracket when they're not identical. And only now you can take out your common bracket because it is identical. So now we're going to have 2p plus 3q. Okay, so that is a very important thing. All right. let's just look at number 6. I think I'll come back to number 5. Let's just look at number 6 also. Can you see there we have 3 to 3, which is actually 1 to 1. And we have 1b to 1c, which is also 1 to 1. So I can see I can group the first two and I can group the second two. So I'm going to group the first two together. And then I'm going to take out a negative 1. And then they must swap the signs. Okay, so the c must be negative and the b must now be positive inside. Okay, now I can take out, I look at my first brackets and I take out what is common there. So I can take out a 3 and a, then I sit with b minus c, and then of course I have the minus 1 and b minus c. Okay, alright, so now that is common. Okay, so that can come out. The second brackets, what is left if I divide? So the first term divided by b minus c will give me 3a, and the second term divided by b minus c will give me negative 1. Because remember, you're actually dividing there. You're actually dividing that by that. That gives you then the 3a. And you're actually dividing that by that. And that gives you the negative 1 because there's a negative. Okay, so that is common brackets. Very, very important, the common brackets. Okay, so we look now at in Jamboard and we did two or so common brackets. Now we want to look at the difference of two squares. Remember, we're busy with revision. That's why I'm going a little bit quickly, but I think you people will manage. But we will see how it goes. But actually we're doing revision. Okay. So now remember what the words are telling you there. It's the difference of two squares. So it means there's the difference. Okay. Right. And there's the square and the square. So it's the difference of two squares. Now how do we do them? By taking the square root of the first and the square root of the second, and also again square root of the first, square root of the second, and then one must have a negative and one must have a positive. It doesn't matter which way you do it. If you want to do first the positive, it's fine, and then the negative. But one bracket must have a negative, one bracket must have a positive. So let's look here. Clearly we can see, can we get the square root there? Yes. Can we get the square root there? Yes. Well, then we have the difference of two squares. So how I'm going to factorize it? By taking the square root of the first, put it there and there. Taking the square root of the second, put it there and there. So you don't need to show this step, in other words. And then one must have a minus and one must have a plus. Okay, now the next one is a lot more important, okay? Because we must realize, once again now, there's a minus. So this is a term, the whole thing there, and this is a term, the whole thing there. Okay, so because the minus separates the terms, not multiplication, not brackets, not division, but plus or minus. So there's two terms there, because remember we may have the difference of two squares, meaning we must have a square on the one side and a square on the other side. Only two terms, in other words. If you remember that I said in the beginning, sometimes it's good to group your factors under the number of terms. So a difference of squares fall under two terms. Alright, now I look, can I get the square root of the first term? Yes, it's 9c. Well, put it then there and there. Can I find the square root of the second term? It's that whole thing there. Yes, it should be 7 and 1 bracket. So 7 and 1 bracket. 7 and 1 bracket. Now between those two, put a negative and a positive. And then just go in and simplify the inside. So negative 7d, negative times negative is positive, 7 times e is 7e. 7 times d is 7d, positive times negative is negative, 7 times e is 7e. So just finish in this last step. But by far that step is the most important to understand, because this is just simplification, okay? And then this is asked often, this type of thing. So what do we have here? A 2 term. Can I get the square root there? No. Can I get the square root there? No. Okay, well then difference of squares are out. So, but can I get the common factor? Yes. There's a there, there's a there. So take it out. Now don't stop there now, you see. Don't stop. So what do I have here now? Now I can find the square root, and I can find the square root. I'll put it then there and there, put it there and there. One with a minus, one with a plus. Well, this one is the sum. We don't have factors for the sum of squares, so that will now remain the same. But this one has a minus, so I need to check again. So can I find the square root there? Yes, it's going to be b. Can I find the square root there? Yes, it's going to be 1. So put the b there and there, put the 1 there and there, 1 with a plus, 1 with a minus. So in the end, there will be this 1, 2, 3, 4 factors. So that 2 term, you can separate into 4 factors. We can factorize it into 4 factors. Okay, so a lot of people stop there in number 1. Unfortunately, lose a lot of marks. So we always need to make 100% sure that we are in simplest form. Okay, very, very important. Okay, so if we have to factorize number 7, which is x squared, sorry, let me just get the pen here, which is x squared minus a plus b squared, then what's important is there's the minus. So this is term 1 and this is term 2. Separated by the minus. I have a square and I have a square. So I do have the difference of 2 squares. So when we do the difference of 2 squares, we make big brackets, because there's now the second factor there is a 2 term. So I find the square root of the first, which is x, put it in the first and the first position in both brackets, and I find the square root of the second term, put it in the second position. Okay, it's like a canoe, you know. So the first 2 people jump in the front, the last 2 people jump in the back. They're twins. Okay. So plus here, minus or minus plus, that doesn't matter. Now I must just remove the brackets in the inside. So here's a plus, nothing is going to change. Okay, there we must go in with a negative. Okay. Alright, so some of you got this one right nicely. Okay, now let us look at number 9. Okay, so first of all, we have one term and another term. Okay, separated by the minus. Okay, because there's a multiply here, so it doesn't separate the 2 there. So this is one term. Okay, and there's a multiply there. Okay, so this is one term. So basically we have the difference, and now I just check, can I find the square root here? Yes, I can. Can I find the square root there? Yes, I can. Can I find the square root there? Yes, I can. Can I find the square root there? Yes, I can. Okay, well then this is the difference of two squares. So how I'm going to do it? Okay, big brackets. Right. Then square root and one bracket. First position. Square root, one bracket. First position. Then second position, the square root of the second term, so 2 and one bracket. And then here is a 2 and one bracket. So these twins jump in the back, and the other two twins, identical twins, jump in the first position. One must have a plus, one must have a minus. Okay, now I just need to simplify the inside, but remember those brackets cannot go away now because there should be multiplication. There should be multiplication because it's factors. It's this times that. So I just need to simplify my inside. So this gives 10x squared minus 15y. Then that is done. And then that is plus 2y minus 2x squared. Okay. And then that one gives 10x squared minus 15y minus 2y plus 2x squared, because the negative times the negative is going to be a plus there. Now I'm still not done. I still need to simplify this now. Okay, so let's see where we end up now. So this first bracket is going to give me 8x squared and minus 13y. And this is going to give me 12x squared, I think, minus 17y in brackets. So that is going to be my final answer there. Okay, so this concludes tonight's work. And you saw I took it all out of the exercises that is in your workbook. We will next time look at the other books I said you must get, those answer series, and then we will do some exercises there.